Israeli troops are pushing deeper into Gaza on day 11 of the war against Hamas. Dangerous urban warfare is underway as the terrorists hide now among civilians.
At this point, Israel seems determined to continue its campaign. Here's Chris Mitchell from the Israel-Gaza border.
Israeli forces are moving cautiously in their war on Hamas, knowing that the casualties will grow in the dense northern Gaza neighborhoods. Friendly fire incidents Monday killed 4 Israeli soldiers and wounded 24 more. But Israel's defense forces reportedly killed at least 100 from the Hamas military wing. Defense Minister Ehud Barak told Knesset members Monday that the army is making progress here in the field. But he also warned that the most difficult days for the operation could lie ahead. Despite the military success, 40 rockets pounded a wide area of Israel around the Gaza Strip on Monday. And more rockets are falling today. One wounded a 3-month-old baby.
Israel wants to see quiet return to the south. That's in everyone's interest. But it must be remembered that Hamas exploited the previous arrangements just to double the range of their rockets from 20 kilometers to a 40-kilometer range, striking deep inside Israel.
While the military goes after the dwindling Hamas leadership, Israel has tough sledding in the United Nations, where there are hopes a diplomatic effort will freeze Israel's gains and give Hamas a chance to survive.
Our goal is an immediate ceasefire, and that's what we want to take forward.
The UN claims 25% of the casualties in Gaza are civilians. But Israeli spokesmen say Israel goes further than any other army to avoid killing civilians. Israel's demands for a ceasefire include a complete halt to rocket attacks, international monitors of any truce agreement, and an end to any rearming of Hamas. Meanwhile, Egypt's President Hosni Mubarak said Monday Hamas must not be allowed to win in Gaza. Mubarak fears Hamas ties to Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood will destabilize his nation. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, at the Israel-Gaza border.
Well, joining us from Washington is the spokesman for the Israeli Embassy in Washington, Jonathan Peled. Mr. Ambassador, pleasure to have you with us today. The international pressure is going to become very intense against Israel in these days, currently and in the future. Can Israel ward off such pressure to get the job done?
Well, we understand, obviously, that time is of essence here. But like the war against the Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, we know it's not something which one can do in 1 day or 1 month or in 1 year. I think so far the international community and the moderate Arab world understand that Hamas has to be dealt with as a terror organization, and that really Israel should be let to finish this operation and really to try and clamp down on this terrorist organization.
Well, how do you do it without vicious urban fighting where these people are located in civilian apartment buildings, and here you're going to come into that? Aren't you afraid that there'll be many troop casualties?
Obviously, I mean, we very reluctantly moved into Gaza with ground troops. It would have been far easier to carpet bomb Gaza and not risk our own soldiers, our own boys, from going in. But obviously, the tragic and very cynical thing that we're seeing in Gaza is that Hamas are hiding among the civilian population, are operating out of them, and are trying to inflict as many casualties on their own people. And so we are trying to do our utmost to really minimize civilian casualties, and at the same time ensure that enough humanitarian supplies enter Gaza, because even though the situation is not very good, we do not want it by any means for there to be a humanitarian crisis for the Palestinians in Gaza.
What about Iran? Have you definite evidence of Iranian involvement with Hamas?
It's very clear that Iran is involved here. They're backing and supplying Hamas, as they are backing and supplying Hezbollah and other radical elements in the region. And of course, that is another reason why Israel and the free world, United States and everyone, we have to have the upper hand, because the fight against terror is a global mission, a global objective, and we're all united in this together. And therefore, it's so important for us really to have the upper hand, and at the same time, keep our hand extended for peace, because at the end, what we want really is nothing more than peace with our Palestinian neighbors, and especially with the Palestinians in Gaza.
I understand that Sheikh Nasrallah of Hezbollah has issued a threat that if Israel goes so far against defeating Hamas, that Hezbollah will come against Israel from the north. Do you have any, again, evidence of that?
Well, we've heard certain statements, obviously, by Nasrallah. We've heard the Iranians recruiting 70,000 suicide bombers to come and attack Israel. All these people really want is to destroy the values we all share, the values of the sanctity of life, of democracy, of freedom. And we have to fight to defend these values that we cherish so much. And therefore, Israel is now exerting its right for self-defense, very reluctantly using military measures, which we would have preferred, obviously, not to be using. But under such an intolerable situation, with thousands of rockets falling on over 700,000 Israelis in the south of Israel, there was absolutely no other choice.
Last question. Is there a possibility that this Hamas activity and with the rockets into Israel was meant to divert attention away from building of nuclear devices in Iran itself?
Well, we can't rule that obviously out either. Iran is, like very often we describe it as an octopus with many tentacles. It has its proxies in the region. It's trying to undermine the moderate Arab countries. We're hearing more and more Arab leaders calling on Iran to stop meddling in their affairs and stop interfering. They're against peace and stability in the region. So really Iran has to be dealt with through an international effort, a concerted international effort. And Hamas is one front which we have to, at the moment, overcome and defeat in order really to be able to continue fending off Iran and its terrorist and radical aspirations.
Thank you. Jonathan Peled, speaking from the Israeli Embassy, the spokesman from the Israeli Embassy in Washington, D.C.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us.